This is the year that I'm going to begin investing in Bitcoin. I am no Bitcoin guru by any means, and I'm not a crypto bro. But over the last couple of weeks, I've dug into the history of Bitcoin and its purpose, paired with just the recent economic climate. That basically propelled me to make the decision that I want to start allocating a small percentage of my investments this year into Bitcoin and dollar cost averaging throughout the year. Why am I even talking about crypto in this video? Crypto for me felt very chaotic, and the feeling I got around crypto was that it was just a bunch of shit coins and meme coins. I always heard about Dogecoin, and then the Hawk Tua coin, and the rug pulls that happened with that. I mean, that coin was so ridiculous, and honestly, I have no sympathy for people who lost money buying a freaking Hawk Tua coin. Like, there's no way I'm spending my hard earned money on a damn Hawk Tua coin. There was just a lot of bad publicity that I was consuming with crypto, so I stayed far away from it. However, through all the mess of all the shitcoins, Bitcoin has continued to rise and has been a proven alternative asset to invest in for years now at this point. I've just been seeing more and more institutions buying up Bitcoin, and I don't want to get left behind this time around. And please don't take this video as this channel becoming a crypto channel, because this will not become a crypto channel. I just want to make this video to tell y'all that I'll be investing in crypto for the first time this year and get y'all's opinions down in the comments. My core investment strategy still remains the same with the core portfolio of VU, SCHG, and SCHD, and I'll just be adding Bitcoin as a satellite position in my portfolio. I want to walk you through in a grounded way why I personally am choosing to invest in Bitcoin this year, how I think about it in my long-term investment strategy, and what the real risks and trade-offs are so you can decide for yourself whether Bitcoin belongs anywhere in your portfolio or not. What I see most online is that people either dismiss Bitcoin entirely without really understanding it, and for me that was a long time, or people just go in emotionally and financially without really respecting the risks and volatility that comes with investing in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And I think the smartest position usually will live somewhere in the middle of both of those situations, especially if you're a long-term investor who cares about building wealth slowly over time. So in this video, I want to walk you through the history of Bitcoin, what it actually is at a fundamental level, the reasons people are drawn to it, and the reason I'm drawn to it this year, and the arguments against it, so you watching this video can understand Bitcoin and formulate your own opinions on the matter. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized cryptocurrency that allows people to send value directly to each other without having to use a bank or government, and there will only ever be a limited amount of Bitcoin available. When I first heard about that, it sounded pretty wild to me, but the concept becomes much clearer when you compare Bitcoin to the traditional finance system that most of us are used to. Right now, almost every dollar you use is tracked, moved, and controlled by somebody else, which means banks could, like in theory, freeze your accounts. Governments can change monetary policy overnight, and governments can devalue the dollar so fast, and inflation is going to erode your purchasing power over time. Whereas Bitcoin comes in, it operates on a public, decentralized platform called the blockchain, where transactions are verified by the global network of computers, and no single entity has control. And I'm going to say yet because governments are really trying to seize control of this, and let's hope they don't. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and that fixed supply is one of the main reasons people compare Bitcoin to digital gold, because unlike fiat currencies that can be printed endlessly, and we're seeing a lot of that today, Bitcoin's scarcity is transparent and enforced by the computer code. Like there's just never going to be more Bitcoin produced than 21 million. So let me go into a brief history of Bitcoin and why this matters for this video. Bitcoin was created in 2009 in the aftermath of the global financial crisis by a dude's name that I can't pronounce, but I'm going to put it on the screen here. The entire premise of Bitcoin was born out of a loss of trust in the financial institutions that took all these massive risks that basically created the 2008 crash, got bailed out, and passed the consequences down to everyday people. In the early days, in the early years for that matter, Bitcoin wasn't widely used and adopted at the time. Like I remember hearing about this story, and I think a lot of you guys have heard this story, of the dude that bought 2 pizzas with like 10,000 Bitcoins. And now that's literally over like $1 billion. And that would make me sick to my stomach knowing how down bad that dude probably is right now, selling his Bitcoin, trading his Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. Now, it's always easy to sit back and Monday morning quarterback this dude, but he was just utilizing Bitcoin for what it was designed to do. He didn't have the crystal ball to see that these 2 pizzas would be worth over $1 billion. And Bitcoin's price appreciation has been remarkable, especially over the last 10 years. And Bitcoin's network itself has proven remarkably resilient for that matter. It's survived a lot of exchange collapses, regulatory pressure from governments, and it's survived all this volatility. And if you go trend Bitcoin and look at how it's gone over the last couple of years in the market, you see how volatile it can be. But all this has slowly shifted the conversation from people not taking Bitcoin seriously to everyone paying attention to it now, including myself. So why are people bullish on Bitcoin, and why am I bullish on Bitcoin? Well, one of the reasons that I'm in favor of Bitcoin is that it acts as a hedge against the devaluation of money, especially in a world where government seems to not give a damn about shrinking the debt, or they just keep printing money. I mean, the Fed is printing money like a madman over the last 5 years in response to every economic slowdown. And I'm not an economic guru, but everyone has felt the effects of inflation recently. And Bitcoin, by contrast, can't be printed more quickly to solve short-term economic problems, which makes it appealing to people who want to invest in an asset that exists outside of the traditional monetary system. And the rules of Bitcoin aren't going to be changed by policymakers. And again, I'm going to put a caveat here. Hopefully, they don't get changed by policymakers, but that can always change in the future because governments can try to seize control of Bitcoin, even though I think that would be a terrible idea. Another major reason that I'm going to invest in Bitcoin is for its digital flexibility, because you can store thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin in a digital wallet. I just like the idea how flexible owning Bitcoin is. And finally, from an investment standpoint, Bitcoin has historically had a low correlation with traditional assets like stocks and bonds over long periods of time, which means small allocations in Bitcoin can improve your overall portfolio diversification. For my strategy, I'm not going to put more than 5 or 10% of it in Bitcoin. I still trust, the S&P 500, but with everything going on, I just want to start allocating a little bit of my portfolio to either gold, silver, or Bitcoin. And to me, investing in Bitcoin has the same fundamental strategy as the gold and silver. But some advantages of investing in Bitcoin are the fact that years down the road, say this becomes a widespread currency that a lot of people are using. In theory, you could just go to the store and transact anything with Bitcoin. You can't walk to the store necessarily with a gold bar and just shave off portions to pay for something. And that's just an example that comes to my head there. But I think Bitcoin has a lot more flexibility, and it would act just like kind of how gold acts. Now, I'm going to take both sides here in this video and talk about why Bitcoin is not a guaranteed win for my portfolio, and why it could be a riskier investment, and exactly why I'm not moving more than 10% of my portfolio into Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin is extremely volatile, and that volatility is not going to go away anytime soon, which means you need to be emotionally and financially prepared to see your investments, say, drop 50% in a year, and you can't panic sell that. For me, my plan is I'm going to dollar cost average into Bitcoin, but you can't be the investor that panic sells at all-time lows, because Bitcoin is not going to be the investment choice for you then. There is also regulatory risk, which I've alluded to earlier in this video, because while Bitcoin itself is decentralized at this moment, that can change with regulation, taxes on Bitcoin. It can really be impacted by governments, and I just hope that doesn't happen, but that is a risk by buying Bitcoin. I see Bitcoin as a rising asset in the digital space, but it could easily come crashing down if governments get too involved. And then there's the fact that Bitcoin does not produce a cash flow or dividend, which means unlike stocks or real estate, its value is entirely based on capital appreciation. So if adoption stalls or sentiment falls for this for a long enough time, returns could underperform traditional investments, which is why I'm only going to have maybe 5 or 10% of my portfolio in Bitcoin. For me, Bitcoin is not a replacement for a diversified stock portfolio, and it's not something I'm betting my future on. I'm definitely not going to be day trading in and out of it, but instead I view this as a long-term bet that plays a very specific role in my overall diversification. I treat Bitcoin more like digital gold than a growth stock, meaning I'm not looking at short-term price movements. I'm not reacting to the headlines of Bitcoin. I'm not changing my allocation based on what happens this year, next year, or 5 years down the road. I'm thinking long term when I'm dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. That's all I have for this video. So if you are one of those people that knows a thing or two about investing in cryptocurrency, I'd love to hear your opinions on the future of crypto. Let me know how much of a percentage you're investing your portfolio into crypto. And as always, this is not financial advice. I'm just a 26-year-old engineer telling you about my personal finance experiences. Thank you to everyone who has supported this channel and helped grow over the last month. I'll see you guys in the next one.